I got a call from Corey DeYoung, and he's like, "Hey, my friends bought a strip club, and they wanted to know if you'd be willing to come spiritually house clean it." And I was like, "Well, we've done it before." I'm like, "Strip club? That's new levels right there." As I'm writing my freedom message for Men on Fire, I was like, "Wait a minute, we're literally doing a whole class on freedom from pornography, freedom from addictions, and stuff like that. What if we brought all the boys down there and we just went for it, did like a repentant service or something like that?" You went with it. Corey jumped all over it, and Joel Ramsey was all about it. And that was a pretty cool night.
Every time I turn on my phone or the TV, it feels like the world's falling apart. The news is full of chaos, and if that's all you ever see, it's easy to believe everything's just getting worse. But that's not what I'm seeing behind the scenes. In real life, in our communities, I'm watching God move like I've never seen before. I've seen lives restored, churches growing, revival happening at business events, people stepping out in faith, and God giving dreams and visions, calling people to rise up and make a difference. And that's why I started Transforming Communities, because I want to show you what God is actually doing right now. I want to introduce you to my friends, people who are stepping up, taking risks, and transforming their cities for the kingdom. So if you're tired of bad news and you've been wondering if God still moves, He does, and these stories prove it. To support what we're doing and to hear more stories like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to be notified every time a new podcast drops, just click the bell icon next to the subscribe button. With that being said, let's jump into the Transforming Communities podcast. This episode is brought to you by Helping Captives. You know, it's crazy how many people don't realize that human trafficking isn't just somewhere else. It happens right here in our own communities. Helping Captives is a faith-based anti-trafficking organization that exists to provide freedom, hope, and opportunity to survivors of sex trafficking across the United States. They do this through their different services such as emergency and stabilization, 24/7 around-the-clock care, professional counseling, and much more. If you're a survivor of sex trafficking and need help, or you're wanting to support a survivor's journey, take the first step at helpingcaptives.org. That's helpingcaptives.org. Today's guest is Jason McQuinn. He's the owner and director of Bear Paw Camp. Jason and I first met in a really unconventional way when we purchased the local strip club and hosted a men's revival night inside that building. Jason showed up with a whole bunch of guys and a worship team, and together we saw over 300 men gather in that space. What happened that night deeply impacted our community and sparked something bigger. That single night became the starting point, leading to worship nights that continued for the next year. What began as a bold act of obedience turned into a friendship and a shared heart for reaching men. Under Jason's leadership, Bear Paw Camp has grown into a year-round ministry. It hosts youth camps, family retreats, leadership trainings, and regional gatherings that serve churches across the Northwest. But one of the things that Jason is especially known for are his Men on Fire events, where men come together for honest conversations about faith, family, responsibility, and living with conviction. Now listen, Jason is a country boy. He's a Carhartt wearing, North Idaho bow hunting kind of guy who probably wouldn't have much of a problem eating roadkill. So if you're an outdoorsman, a husband, a father, or a man who's hungry for real brotherhood and faith that actually costs you something, these events are for you. In this conversation, we talk about calling, leadership, responsibility, and how Jason ended up acquiring Bear Paw Camp and what it looks like to faithfully carry out what God has placed in your hands. Now on to Jason McQuinn. All right, dude.
All right.
You get street guys in here, and then you get the country boys. And I've got the country boy in the house today. Jason is a good friend of mine. We've become friends. Didn't even really know him, and then we purchased the Deja Vu, and I got a phone call from a guy that said, "Hey, we want to bring a bunch of guys down and do a revival service," and that's where we met.
Yeah, that was crazy. I got a call from Corey DeYoung, and he's like, "Hey, my friends bought a strip club, and they wanted to know if you'd be willing to come spiritually house clean it." And I was like, I mean, we've done it before. I'm like, strip club? That's new levels right there. And I was like, what date? And I think he said it was like February 1st. I get the keys. I'm like, oh, dude, we can't do that. It's Men on Fire. As I'm writing my freedom message for Men on Fire, I was like, wait a minute. We're literally doing a whole class on freedom from pornography, freedom from addictions, and stuff like that. And I was like, what if we brought all the boys down there and we just went for it, did like a repentant service or something like that. And then it just snowballed. Like, you went with it. Corey jumped all over it, and Joel Ramsey was all about it. And that was a lot. That was a pretty cool night.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I think what happened was one of my, I think Shelly, who is our community engagement person, she was telling her pastor about it. And that's where you go to church, right, Corey? Mm-hmm. And so somehow it kind of got out before we were even trying to let the community get out. And then I think Tobin called and got it all set up and was like, I want to be there and we need to get the guys down there. And then next thing I know, you're calling me. And then we're like, cool, let's do it. And then Joel Ramsey was coming up to speak at your guys' Man on Fire. So he was like, I'll come and preach. And it just happened so fast. We were like, okay, I think this is the Lord. And
the Lord was all over it.
Next thing I know, Joel's posting something about my friends bought a strip club and we're doing a revival service. So then that went viral before I could even post or the ministry could even post what we're doing.
Yeah.
So before we know it, the whole community thinks we're buying a strip club and turning it into a church and not an anti-trafficking center. But, I mean, it is what it is, man. So I thought it was really cool.
I just remember that night there was like guys coming up repenting for stuff. They're throwing money on in the offering bucket to help buy it, and it's just a powerful service. It was one of my surely top 5 favorite services ever. Because who could say they worshipped in a strip club before and saw 26 guys give their life to Jesus or something like that?
I don't know. Yeah, it was like close to 30.
Like people getting
and then one of
them
was my friend that sold weed with me in high school, and so he was coming along. He got saved. That changed his whole entire night. I remember he was sitting there.
That night he got saved?
Yeah, he got saved that night, and he was sitting there, and the Lord was just moving so much. I remember people were praying, and they were like just falling out.
Yeah.
And he
getting up with glitter on him, and it wasn't
never
gold
been
glitter.
around this, right? So he's going, what in the world's going on? And somebody fell and hit him. He's like a tough little street guy. And so he's
like
sitting there
fight
just
somebody.
kind of like, what's going on? And then that was all he was saying. I was just so concerned that when somebody prayed for me, I was going to fall over and land in like glitter. And that's what he was worried about. But what's funny is not only did his life get changed, but then it slowly started transforming every part of him.
Come on.
And then the girl that he was dating, he was like, okay, we need to get married. And then the next thing you know, he's asking me to do the wedding. And now they're so involved at our church. He's on security. They're going to church all the time. Like, it was crazy. So it was really phenomenal that was kind of the night that changed his life. Yeah. And you just never know. Like, we've been talking and praying and having conversations with him since I was in high school. But that was the night.
That was the night.
So
as we served an eviction notice to the principalities, remember that? The sheriff stuck a knife in the wall.
Yeah. You almost got me canceled right before you even got the building opened. I didn't really know what was going on. I was like, yeah, dude, come down. Let's do it. And they had 2 police officers give the devil an eviction notice in the wall. The only thing one of the reasons why we started the podcast was because of that. One of the things I noticed was how the media liked to kind of take things out of context.
And I was clueless, and you actually had to coach me up a little bit.
Yeah, because I was like, well, one of the things was somebody got up and prayed and just said, hey, any spirit of Jezebel or any spirit of Delilah, we just cast you out. And, we have the ladies outside that are protesting. They don't know. They think that we hate them.
Yeah.
And that's their understanding, that the church doesn't like them and hates them. And so we're having a good conversation with them and let them know, hey, we don't hate you at all. We're just passionate about helping women come out of trafficking. But then the next morning in the newspaper writes that, essentially somebody said, Jezebels and Delilahs, we cast you out. Almost like we were calling the women that, just from that one pastor's prayer.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I need to get my own podcast, or I need to do something where we can actually have conversation, because it just, there's always got to be some kind of drama or some kind of thing to be able to have a headline. But it really actually affected that relationship, just from being able to, just how the media kind of spun that. So, but that's definitely not our heart at all. And like, one of the things that was so cool about it, there's so many guys that showed up that had been at that club, whose actual relationships have been impacted, whose marriages have been impacted because they were going down there, and they just realized they want to be part of being known for healing women. Yeah. And not trying to create an environment to objectify them. And that was really what it was about. And then I think for us as men, we were kind of like, hey, this is our men's club. This is a gentleman's club. Like, this was a place that the men in the community put together So we need to be the ones to come in and
Repurpose it for
repent.
the kingdom, yeah.
And then we had the women's night after. So I thought it was really cool. And then we'll get into that a little bit. But I think the other thing that was interesting, you guys brought this like massive cross down. So I want to get into all that because like, you know, I was surprised you guys didn't like roll in with the John Deere tractor with the cross behind you guys.
I mean, come on. you roll out of the woods.
Might as well. Just so you know, these
team,
guys are like the North Idaho boys that run a men's camp. And so those are the guys that showed up.
Yeah, our team made that the cross was like an 8x8. I think it was 8 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah, it's still down there. It's massive.
It weighed hundreds of pounds, and like they all like it like crowd surfed to the room, and we're like, put it over there.
Yeah,
it was so casual.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then afterward, it was just awesome to be able to. For me, it was great because the night before when we first got it. We didn't have enough room for the guys, so my dad and I and my pastor went in there and removed the first stage. And then the second night when you guys came down, you helped us remove that second one, which was great because it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was awesome. But I want to get into a little bit of your story, kind of like what was your upbringing like and how did you end up finding Jesus?
That's a big question.
And then we'll move the mic closer to you.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Grew up kind of in the Lutheran church. Just went, right? It wasn't really a part of it. And went when I was in the military, just went to whatever that's called, whatever the military services they had on base and stuff like that. And then I was living over on the west side, and my wife and I ran a really big medical practice, had a little bit of money. And out of nowhere, a youth pastor calls me up and was like, hey, would you be willing to sponsor a kid to go to camp? And I was like, yeah, I could sponsor a kid to go to camp. Like, I loved going to camp as a kid. How much? And a couple $100. Then all day, I was like, I wonder how many other kids need to go to camp. That's the only thing I could think of.
Okay.
Wasn't filled with the Holy Spirit, wasn't activated, but I was just like obsessed with, I bet there's 9 more. I think there's 9 more. I bet there's 9. And at the end of the night, I called the pastor back. And I'm like, hey, man, just out of curiosity, how many other kids are there that need to go to camp? And he's like, there's 9 more kids that need a scholarship. And I was like, cool, well, I'll pay for all 10, but I want to go. I don't know why. Like, and he was like, yeah, I guess that'll work. Like, I was really like driving some hard deal. Pro tip, any of you that want to help at a youth camp, we'll always say yes, as long as you'll pass a background check.
Yeah, you got to pass a background check because if you're trying too hard to get into a youth conference, we're like, hey, dude,
yeah,
fill this out.
Little sketchy stuff going on. But
I'll bring 10 kids, but I want to come.
Yeah.
You're like,
I wanted to see what it was like, and so they put me as security, right, fresh out of the military, and
got it.
Like night 1, these kids roll in and they're like hardcore, like the way I remember, they had like neck tattoos and teardrops. They probably didn't, but they were like hardcore inner city kids. And the first night they were like mean mugging everyone, and I'm standing right behind them, like, man, I don't know how I'm going to take all 10 of these guys down to Chinatown, but I'll do it if I have to. And like as the week progressed, I saw them soften. They started hanging out with this special needs kid, and they like did these like little rap battles back and forth. And I'm like, dude, this is cool. And then like I slowly saw them start singing and worshiping. And then they all, over the course of the week, had given their life to Jesus. And the last night, I'm like sitting 4 rows back, just like, dude, this is so cool. Like, I love camp. I love this atmosphere. And the pastor does the last salvation altar call, and I wasn't even really paying attention. He's like, if you want to accept Jesus like that, stand up. And I just like shot out of my chair. And I was like, oh crap, this is for the kids. So like a coward, I went and sat like on the back wall, and later when pastor came up and talked, he goes, so you kind of...
We had Ike Whitaker in here. He had a very similar experience.
Ike's awesome. So
yeah,
I'm in
had
good
almost
company.
like the same experience. He said he went to a camp and he jumped out. He's like, I need it more than the kids do.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even thinking. It was just whoop. I was like, oh shoot, that was quick. Yeah. And but then I got filled with the Holy Spirit a couple years later at a youth camp. Actually, Joel Ramsey introduced me to the Holy Spirit, and it was like that was the day where like this God-sized hole in my heart finally got filled by something. I was trying to fill it with alcohol and racing and hunting. I had like hunting shows and like race cars over in Monroe, and tried to do all the cool man stuff that it was just boy stuff that never fulfilled that need. So. So camps have been a big part of my life.
You said you joined the military. How did you choose to get into the military?
September 11th, and then on September 12th, I was like, let's go.
Really? You're one of those guys?
One of those guys. It was like...
How old were you?
I think I was 20.
Okay, so that just hit you hard, huh?
Yeah, I was like, I think on September 11th, I was walking around like buying ammo, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't going to work. Let's join the forces. So, yeah.
That's cool. What did you join?
I was in the Navy.
All right. Awesome.
So,
And then did you go over there?
I didn't go over there. Did a lot of stuff stateside. Hung out with some really cool Mobile Unit 2 and SEAL Team 2. Did a lot of fun testing with them and stuff. But by God's grace, I got off the hook. So
okay. And so so you're already in the military, and then did you do a full 4 years, and then I
did 5 years. Yeah,
you did 5 years, and then you went from the military to medical.
So my wife's a doc, and then we just was working the car business, and while she was in med school, she got out. We started building these medical practices over on the coast. She's a naturopath, and we just kind of did that, and then that evolved into the youth camp. We got a prophetic word, one revival night. That's a whole other testimony there.
Yeah,
and took a wrong turn down a dead end road called Bear Paw Drive, and the camp just so happened to be going out of business, and we rolled in there after getting a prophetic word that we'd buy a youth camp. Like the whole story takes like 45 minutes to tell properly, but it's like it was so clearly God just showed up after she showed up.
So let's get into a little bit, and let's talk through a little bit. So go to the military. Do you meet your wife around then?
No, I knew her before.
Okay, so you knew her before. You go in the military, and then you guys get out. She's a doctor. You guys start medical practice. Your pastor hits you up and asks you if you want to sponsor a kid at camp.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit starts touching your heart, and he's like, you sponsor the kid, and then all of a sudden you feel like something's telling you there's 9 more kids.
Yeah.
There is 9 more kids. You sponsor all the kids. You go to camp, and that's when you really say, like, I give my life to the Lord. So then what ends up? So then, how do you end up in getting a camp?
So year after year, I kept going and volunteering at camps, and it was like we would get 2 weeks vacation, and we'd like one of the weeks we would just, both my wife and I would just make sure that we were a part of camp. She'd be the camp doc. I'd be the director of fun. I'd be doing games, be doing security, driving, whatever they needed.
Yeah.
And then we just like fell in love with like that crew of people, and to the point where I loved camp so much, I was like, one day we're going to buy one of these. One day we're going to have a camp. Every time there was a problem, I'm like, when I ever get a camp, and the others would be like, we know, Jason, one day you're going to get a camp. And after I filled with the Holy Spirit, I started going to every revival service, every teaching service, everything I could go to, because I felt like I wasn't equipped enough. And I found myself like in the back of some like mechanic shop in Arlington, Washington, at a traveling evangelist, and I'm sitting there, and it was like 2 hours of the worst Christian one-liners. I had just stabbed a screwdriver through my hand, and I'm like, let's get out of here. I thought this was maybe gonna be like a cool healing thing or something like that. And we just start swooping the little kids up. We had 3 kids at the time; they were little, and we're gonna go to the hospital, get my hand fixed. And the pastor goes, "Wait, I have a word from the Lord for you." And I was like, "Well, if it's anything like you're preaching, it's probably gonna suck." And he's like, "You make this much money a year, you have 4 sources of income, and you don't have enough property for your horses. You don't have enough property for your horses if you're going to start a youth camp and bring healing to the next generation, both physical and spiritual. I see micro cabins. I see this. I see that. I see this." And when he said the word micro cabins, it like ripped my heart out of my chest, because a couple years before that, I was a hunting guide, and I was actually working with Bob DeYoung, Corey's dad. And I wrote up a business plan on making a youth camp, and the big part of it was micro cabins. Just for like, in my experience, when you're doing camp, cabin time is the most important part of camp. Cabin time is like after a service, you sit there and you can counsel the kids. What just happened? What, you know?
Yeah, I've been a camp leader, game director, the whole thing. And you're right, the cabin time after the service where they come and there's no cell phones, and they get to just be able to communicate and talk and hear about what God's been speaking to them about. It's unique because not only does it impact their life, but it builds like this crazy camaraderie within the group. Yeah.
So the guy says micro cabins, and that was like my gotcha moment. And I was like, whoa. That night I go home and I have a dream that I'm driving down an awkwardly straight driveway. And at the end of it, there's a wooden archway with a squeaky metal sign I wrote in my diary that says, "This place," lowercase t, his place, like his place next to the cross. I was like, that's it. That's going to be the name of the nonprofit. Man, that's cool. And pull into the... so that was the dream. And the next day I'm at a mule training clinic because I pack into the wilderness and stuff. And this drunk guy comes walking up to me afterwards, and he pokes me in the chest. And he says, "You don't belong here anymore. You need to move to Newport." I'm like, "Newport?" He goes, "Yep, you need to move to Newport." I'm like, "Where's Newport?" And I get to search on my phone. I'm like, Newport, Washington looks pretty cool. Like, they got like really good waterfowl hunting. They got
For
deer.
someone like you, yeah.
Yeah, they got deer, bear, elk,
There's no one
cougar.
around. Let's go.
Let's go. There's critters to shoot. And the next night, I'm at the Rock and Road Show tour.
Okay.
And we're in like downtown Seattle. There's like 5,000 people in there worshiping. I didn't even know there was 5,000 Christians in Seattle. But was like, man, if we ever get a camp, like we're gonna do an outdoor venue like this. Fast forward 5 weeks, that Newport thing just wasn't letting go. Finally, we drive over to Newport with a bunch of MLS listings. Back then, you had to print them out, right? Because it wasn't all on the phone. And I found this one that I was like, this is it. This is where we're going to go. It was like 140 acres up on this mountain. No money, just blind faith. And we get going. I try turning up this mountain, and it was dead end. And it kept pushing me around this mountain. I'm on hunting apps now, and I'm like trying to figure out how to get up this mountain. And I'm parked on LeClaire Road, and my wife says, "What's Bear Paw Camp?" I was like, "What?" And off in the bushes, she saw this old beat-up sign that said Bear Paw Camp. I was like, "I don't know." And I looked at our market analysis, it wasn't on there. So I pulled in, I'm like, "Let's go check it out." And she's making sure, she looks up on Google to make sure it's not like a white supremacy camp or something like that, right? North Idaho, you never know. And I said, "Beth, we've been here before." And she's like, "No, we haven't. The closest place we've been is that creepy fish farm down the road." I'm like, "No, we've been here." And I'm looking at the very end of that 0.6 of a perfectly straight mile. I see a wooden archway with a rusty sign on it.
Yeah.
And she's reading the cover page of Bear Paw Camp. They had just made the website, and it says owned and operated by His Place Church in Post Falls, Idaho. And we were like, this is it. The prophecy, this is the prophetic word. And we pull in, and we make the first swooping left corner pulling into camp, and I see these little 12 by 12 micro cabins. And we're like, they even have micro cabins. And we pull in and we park in the parking lot. We're like, well, now what? Now what do we do? And I'm like, let's go stand up on that hill. And we walk up on the hill, and on the way we were praying for a creek or a stream. I think there's even, I said, maybe we can even just find a spit, right? I'm looking for any moisture coming out of the ground that we can make a swimming hole, because every camp needs a swimming hole. And we're standing up on this ridge, and I look at the Ponderay River. And I said, Beth, God's giving us this river. Like, this is it. This is going to be our camp. Wasn't for sale, anything like that. And in that moment, the caretakers come out, and they say, hey, are you guys here for your 10 o'clock tour? And I look, it's 9:55. And I was like, yeah, we're here for that 10 o'clock tour. They give us a full tour of the place, nicest people ever. And they said, hey, you're not asking all the right youth camp questions. Like, what group did you say you're with again? And I was like, well, we go to this church and this, but we weren't here for a tour. We were just kind of here. And they said, well, why are you here? I said, well, I had this dream. There was this prophetic word. Here's my journal entry. Here's this place thing. Your website didn't come up on the market analysis. It looks like it was just posted on, like we laid it all out. And it says, there's a lot of coincidences here. Like, I don't know what to do. And Danny, the caretaker, just starts crying. And he says, we've been praying for a miracle. Bear Paw Camp is 47 days from foreclosure. And the Kalispell Indian Reservation is going to bulldoze it and turn it into an RV park. So we've been praying for a miracle. And we were like, wow. We go back home, obviously put an offer on it, which kind of helped.
When is this? Like, what year
2018.
Is this? Okay.
And put an offer on it. And I mean, the whole crazy story is that we had our medical practice, we had our house, and of course the land. And we got denied for a loan on day 46. We had good credit, but we just didn't have enough cash.
Okay.
Wells Fargo denied it because they weren't going to do any high-risk loans.
Okay.
And we were like, what are we going to do? I go outside, start yelling at God. The next morning, closing day, the guy who's founded the camp, Bob Sabota, said, hey, is there any way I could extend you a line of credit? Because I don't want to pay capital gains tax, and I want to partner with what you're doing. And
wow.
So we ended up getting the camp and sold our house, sold our medical business, sold everything to kind of pull this thing and just kind of get it all cleaned up. And And now we're seeing about 3,800 kids come through every summer. And our mission is simple, that every camper would have an undeniable encounter with Christ.
Wow.
And so that's how I got into the camp world.
Dude, that's so nuts. But I mean, how cool is that to know without a shadow of a doubt, this is what we're called to do? Obviously, your wife is very open to it as well. When you guys have been praying and had a prophetic word like that, and then everything's lined up.
It was so like aligned, like
that's insane.
Like I'm pretty hard headed, but you have to be really hard headed not to be like that's God.
Yeah.
So
all of those things. Yeah. When you think about the camp today, like, what do you think? What do you believe God's called it to be?
We feel like it's obviously multifaceted. People come in and they'll just use the facility. Everyone who comes there says that this place has a deep well of revival. Like the spiritual atmosphere is so it's like so open that you don't have to like go in and press in a day in advance, and you can just come in and like day one feels like day three is what everybody always says of camp. So that's like on the surface level, that's what most people would say. Probably one of my favorite things would be our internship that we do. I love training up young people and just seeing them like set on fire for Jesus and just go out and just turn into evangelists and just pull their spiritual giftings out of them. But then then the other part of it would be like our men and women on fire, which has started going kind of around the nation. So I don't know.
Let's talk about that. So, because that was one of the things, like when I think of you, I don't even necessarily think of the camp, to be honest with you. I mean, I know that you guys have Bear Paw. I know you guys do a lot of cool stuff. I know you do big things around like 4th of July and all of that. But the thing that always stands out to me is this man on fire thing.
Yeah.
Where did this passion to see men get set on fire for the Lord come from? Because that is taking off quite a bit. That was Men on Fire happened to be right when we met.
Yeah.
You took all these guys, they were so on fire for the Lord. They just had this impacted time with God, and then they drove like 2 hours down to do the worship service at the Freedom Center. And that's for me, that's awesome to see men not only willing to like get out of the pew and get in the game, but they drove 2 hours, and that just really impacted me. I was like, well, this is incredible. But I was always wondering, like, where did that heart specifically come from?
Yeah, probably thinking back, I spent 32 years just being a bench warmer, right? And then I get filled with the Holy Spirit. We'll go on a mission trip with Joel Ramsey in Africa. And I remember we're sitting on the back porch of this. We say it's a thatched roof little house. It was like a mansion with like a really cool thatched roof. But we're under the rain. We're sitting there, and I'm like, Joel, the men of America need to be equipped and activated just like this. How are we going to bring this back? How can we do this in America? And he's like, we can just do our own event. You own the camp. You can do whatever you want. I'm like, oh yeah, I can I? And so we just said, let's just do a training and equipping weekend called Men on Fire. We've all seen a million men's camps where it's like, cool, we're going to go throw axes and just try to be burly men. But everything we do at Men on Fire tries to be more geared towards like activating and equipping guys for their kingdom calling. So the first event we ever did, Joel actually couldn't even come because it was still during COVID. And just the response we've just seen every year, it's like the guys go back to their churches, and then their churches kind of gets activated. And it's been crazy. There was one other big prophetic word that was spoken over us was that the word went like this: the land where you're moving, there's going to be a wildfire that burns so hot that the embers will be gone up into the stratosphere, and they'll be carried off into lands you'll never be privy to see. We got that word 18 times in many different nations. Even through a Zulu translator, she used the word privy. And it was like, that was all happened right before we moved to Bear Paw. And we feel like that's kind of what's going on with Men on Fire is like, if men...
So you have so you, before you even bought the camp, you were doing missions.
That was like, we bought the camp in 18. We leased it back to the prior people to kind of learn how to run a camp.
Yeah.
And then grabbed a bunch of our buddies. We're like, let's do a mission trip. January 2020. So January 1st, 2020, we do a mission trip. And then we come back, and obviously COVID's going on. I took the camp over myself January 1st, 2020, which was a great year to start a youth camp. But so yeah, that kind of all happened in the same time there.
Well, it's funny you said that, because in your situation, I do think it was a great time for you to start a camp.
Yeah.
Because you're in Idaho. It was one of the only places.
We're technically in Washington.
Shut down, right?
Yeah, but we're technically in Washington.
Oh, okay.
But we identify as being in Idaho.
You're like a rock's throw away.
What was really cool, though, is that the Department of Health thought we were closed.
Got it.
Because everything was, like, they thought we were out of business.
Got it.
So we just went for it, stayed open, and all the Spirit-filled guys were like, "Can we still rent your camp?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Okay.
What are your restrictions? I'm like, "Well, it's an Airbnb. Let's do it." So it was actually, COVID is probably the best thing that's happened to our camp.
Yeah, because I remember a lot of people found you through COVID,
Yeah.
and a lot of relationships that you still have today happened because you just felt led to stay open
And we did our big music festival.
trust the Lord through the whole process.
We did a music festival called Freedom Fest. July 1st, 2021, and we decided we were going to do it regardless. And then luckily the governor said that, King Inslee said that we could do our outdoor service July 1st. So we already had like all these, artists there. The semi was already on scene with like the speakers flowing and everything, and like dumped the whole annual budget on one big weekend. But God showed up. So
what do you think with missions? What do you think? I've seen in my own life people that go on mission trips. Something happens when they're on a mission or when they get out of America and they go to another country. It's almost like they see ministry different, and they see God move in a different way, and then they bring that same fire back. Yeah. Is that kind of what you experienced?
100%. I think people have faith to see God move there. Because that's how they hear the stories, they hear the testimonies and stuff like that. I think of a guy, Johnny Newman. He was a neighbor of our camp. He'd call himself a pig farmer. He went to Africa, and he was like, I invited him the first time. He's like, nope, not my thing. I was like, well, that's lame. He audibly heard God about 3 weeks later. It's time to go to Africa. And this guy was I'm going to Africa regardless. I'll canoe there if I have to.
Wow.
He came with, and everyone in it, what does Johnny do? He's like the foreman of an entire lumber mill.
Okay.
Everyone gets the gospel. He preaches, like, he is probably one of the best evangelists I've ever been around. You can't meet Johnny and not hear about Jesus after his mission trip. Yeah. But it was like, dude's been going to church, his whole life. What was it? And he would say that he had the faith to see it happen over there. But then when he was there, he's like, if it can happen here, why can't it happen back home? So
I remember something similar happened to me. I remember I got invited to go to Panama, and one of the guys I really respect, he goes, man, I just really feel like you need to go there, and I feel like you're going to get a key to your life down there in Panama. And we went down there, and that's what hit me, was very interesting on how we did ministry down there and how it looks so different to the way that I grew up around here doing ministry. One, we would go out and we would serve. Immediately, we go out and serve the guys that get machetes and help the guys. Women were going around and helping the women do laundry. We went to a prison. I shared the gospel at a prison. Then my pastor got up and spoke right after me, and the entire prison got saved. That blew my mind. Like, every single person got up. It was so incredible to see. But then what we would do is we basically build relationships with this whole entire community. Yeah. And then the last night we invited them to an event, and then we shared the gospel. And then I got back to America and was like, why can't I just do the same thing here? Why can't we go outside the walls of the church and help serve? And that's ultimately kind of where the idea of like HRC Ministries, which turned into Helping Captives, actually kind of started, was just from seeing the fruit of going out into the community and not just hoping that people show up into our building, but like actually going out and serving and building a relationship. And then out of those relationships, the people would show up. It really was interesting to me, and it really impacted my life a lot. And I encourage people, if they ever have an opportunity to go on a missions trip, like, it's just good. And then we're so blessed here in America.
We're spoiled.
You don't even realize, and then you get back and you just realize, man, even having the house that we have, even if you don't have a really nice bougie house, you just have a basic home. It's like a mansion to some of these other places that we would go and travel for missions trips. And it's so interesting. I love how God just uses that. And there's just nothing else. You can't really rely on anything but him when you're on a missions trip. Mm-hmm. I see, like, some of my friends that have ministries in Africa, and they just go over there, see miracles happen, and they're just trusting the Lord, and the faith that comes through them is so incredible. And it's so fun to catch them when they come back, and just that fire of God just kind of moving through them. And yeah, that's interesting that you guys are seeing that. Because are you still encouraging guys to go on missions trips? Is that kind of part of just who you are now?
Yeah, so every year we try to do at least 1 or 2 trips overseas. Recently, one of our interns' parents is doing a Bear Paw mission down in Costa Rica.
Okay.
So there's some dreams of our interns up here going down there for the winter, and then coming back here and kind of doing this endless summer thing. So at this point, that's a dream. But
what's the craziest thing you've seen on a missions trip?
This episode is brought to you by Altmeyer Financial Group. If you're nearing retirement or just want a clear plan for what's next, Altmeyer Financial helps you turn decades of hard work into a strategy for income, legacy, and purpose. Their team walks with you through discovery to action, reviewing your plan year after year so you can move forward with confidence. To learn more, visit altmeyerfinancial.com. That's altmeyerfinancial.com.
Craziest thing, Corey Young's right behind the screen here. He's laughing because probably the craziest thing we've seen would have been one of the first services we were ever in Africa. Joel gets up, starts preaching, and there's actually a guy, Evan Calcroft, got up and started preaching, and he says, "I'm not going to preach to a room full of demons." And he's like, "Right there." And he sent me and Corey to go move this lady who was clearly manifesting. And she wasn't a big lady. I'd say maybe 120 pounds. And me and Corey are both pretty big guys. And I feel like we could throw any 120-pound lady like on the roof of this house. Like collectively together, we could do it. We couldn't budge her. Like, I was like, does she have magnets in her shoes is there like a steel plate? Like, we physically couldn't move her. And Joel Ramsey comes up, touches her hand, just says, "Freedom." And she like stumbled. And it was like the magnet was released out of her feet. And as we're praying for her they call it the snake pit. As we're praying for her, she's like, "Whoa, whoa." And she pukes and like went like on the wall.
So when they do revival services, they usually have like a tent or an area for people that need deliverance.
Yeah, this was like a back room.
Got it.
Like cinder block wall vibes, and like pukes. And I'm like looking at this bright green. You remember Nickelodeon Gak, like the slime back in the day?
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably wasn't that extreme, but the way I remember it was like, what bodily fluid is this? And my wife's there, and she's like, "I don't even know." And later we learned that a Sangoma witch doctor gave her some pills to suppress feelings she was having. And I remember I was preaching about it later, and I was like, man, who would go to a Sangoma to suppress their feelings, to get poison, to make their feelings go down? And then I was like, wait a minute, our Sangomas just wear white jackets. In America, they're called doctors. And all joking aside, it was just crazy to see her life like shift. Like she looked physically different after she got set free. So that would probably be the craziest thing, because it was like physically we couldn't budge.
Yeah, because both of you guys are what, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah, I mean, I identify as 6'5". I'm about 6'2", but
got it. Well, how Corey, you're big. Yeah, it does make sense.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it was just couldn't even budge her.
Yeah, but Jesus.
And then Joel came up, "Freedom." And it was like he clicked a clicker button that was hiding the magnets.
It's always
or something.
fun when you're like you're getting into ministry and you're just doing everything you can, and then somebody that is experienced in this shows up and they just take you to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun. I've got a couple funny stories like that where I'm just worrying, and a pastor friend just comes up and just says one real calm thing, and immediately they're delivered, and you're just kind of like, okay, help me understand.
I had a pastor walk in when we were doing this nasty deliverance, threw this guy across, like this girl, like threw this guy across the room. I'm like, guys, this is getting physical. This shouldn't be getting physical. And this lady was just like manifesting hard. And this old guy comes in, starts singing, "Jesus loves me, this I know." And she just broke down crying, got set free from him singing over her. And I'm like, oh, I didn't learn that in Africa. That definitely wasn't the Africa handbook.
Yeah. It's so funny. Jesus, it just blows my mind sometimes, man.
Yeah.
What do you, in the current season that you're in right now, what do you feel like God's teaching you guys at camp?
What is he teaching us? It's funny because we actually were talking about this a couple weeks ago, that I feel like God's teaching us to be better stewards of what we got. when we took the camp over, we were in like this radical build and expand, build, clean the camp up, remodel. The Christian Camp Conference of America has all these like models that, you know, if you're at this point, you should have this. And we were always like chasing the next model. But I feel like, you know, our capacity is now 265 beds. Everything is there. And I feel like it's just a season of really being a steward of what we got, making what we got really, really, really good. And I'm not much of a maintainer. I'm a builder. I'm a goer. I'm an evangelist.
Yeah.
And I think that we're entering a season of just settle down and just make what you got really, really, really good. And then also just investing more in people. Every day in our internship, we go out and do evangelism in some capacity, or at least we have the option to. And we've been seeing just like all these special stories coming out of our local community. Like we talk about these crazy stories in Africa, but like when there's kids in the local high school at our in Newport that have never heard the gospel. And I'm like, what post-Christian culture are we living in here where there's one kid in particular that I've been discipling him a little bit, and I started using just typical Christianese, right? I just kind of start flipping through stuff and, you know, well, you know, like when Adam and Eve in the garden, da-da-da-da-da, and he's like, oh, I've never met them. And I was like, you don't know who Adam and Eve are? He's like, no. I was like, what a blank slate I have to work with this kid. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So you just started talking about the Bible. It started with Adam and Eve, and his reaction was, oh, I've never met them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
And like this kid's grandpa said, you need to get baptized. And I don't know if the grandpa passed away or what, but he's like, you need to get baptized. And he's been hanging on to that. He plays sports with my son, and my son's like, yeah, this kid asked if we'd baptize him. I'm like, sure, let's talk to him. Just make sure he's saved, all the, you know, check all the boxes, make sure he's good. And I want to talk to his pastor of his church. Doesn't go to church, and he hasn't even been like invited. And I was just like, he's like living in little Newport, so it's pretty cool. I'm excited for what God's doing.
So you're not only, cause that's interesting. So you're, it sounds like at the beginning, what I noticed was almost like a lot of people that were in the church, men that were in the church, were going to your camp.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see people that have never even heard the gospel showing up to the camp.
Yeah, we definitely have quite a few people that have never heard the gospel. We even open our camp up for one group. It's like a diabetes kids camp.
Okay.
And they know where we stand. We know where they stand. Neither of us are going to budge. But when we interact, we're like, they know we're going to share the gospel with them, to the point where this last year there was a big fire, like a house fire right across the river, and they were freaking out. They're like, what are you guys going to do about it? You know, each one of the leaders had called 911, and we're like, well, we're going to pray. And they're like, what? Like, you're not going to do anything else? We're just going to pray, and God's going to make the wind not come this way. And they were standing there like in disbelief that we would just trust God that much. And that opened up all kinds of doors later. And but yeah, we have all kinds of unsaved people coming into our lives recently, and I think God's about to do something really big.
That's awesome.
It feels like the harvest has never been so easy to harvest. The fields have never been so easy to harvest.
People are so hungry. I'm noticing, especially like with the Gen Z community, they're just so on fire for the Lord, and they're so hungry, way more than the millennial group that I grew up in. But now I'm seeing like half of my millennial friends are like, that I never thought I would see in church, or they're calling me, or they're wanting to come to really hear the truth. Yeah. And I feel like God is really, he's just transforming our community. He's transforming people. And it's interesting because even what you're saying is you're up in the middle of the woods and you're just seeing revival happening with pig farmers and with all sorts of people. It's incredible just to be a part of it, that he moves and he speaks to all of us in different ways. And yeah, it's pretty interesting to see.
There's a grace on it. And probably the other big thing that we're seeing is a lot of churches that maybe were of the cessationist doctrine are really hungry for a move of God and the Holy Spirit. We just got back from Reno. I was sharing some of those testimonies, and we could share stories of like when we went to Montana, same thing. And just it's starting to happen all over the country where
God's just moving and people are just wanting to jump in the river.
Come on,
man. That's awesome. What, let's get back to real quick. Let's jump back to the Freedom Center. Why of all the things, like, I'm just curious to hear from your perspective, why you guys are so excited to come down there, and how,
even in the midst of, we kind of talked about at the beginning of doing Man on Fire, you just felt like the Lord was like, no, this is going to be a part of Man on Fire.
Yeah. So typically we do a family on fire night.
Because I'm just going to pause. I'm just going to tell you this. I was praying. Like there's times where I am an action-oriented person, so I just feel like I got to solve the problem. I got to fix the problem. And we had just got the keys, and for some reason I was like, God, I don't know what to do. Like I don't know what you're wanting. I don't know what you want us to do with the building. And we were just praying, and that's when you called me. Like I was literally just in the middle of praying and just going, okay, Lord, like this is an opportunity that you're giving us, and I want people to hear the gospel, and I want people to hear from you, and what do you want us to do with the building? And through that prayer time, I felt like he was like, I just want you to do prayer services for a year. So that's why at the Freedom Center, we literally just did prayer services for a year. But then you call me, and you're like, yeah, we're going to bring 300 guys down, and we're just going to, like, the next day, you know. And so I was always curious to just ask you, like, what was going on your side? Because that was what was happening on ours.
Yeah. So we always do a family on fire night, which would be the Saturday night following Men on Fire, because what we've learned is that men go home, let's go, they're going to conquer the world, and they get home and their wife throws a wet blanket on them, you know, after a man camp or something like that. And then it's like, oh, you see them at church on Sunday, and it's like, dude, so we do this family on fire to get the whole family. And then when Corey called me, I'm like, dude, this fits so perfectly. Mm-hmm. This is too perfect of a fit. And then I asked Joel about it, and asked Dylan, asked like every single person. I just shoulder tapped. I'm like, would you be down for this? And they're like it was yes by everybody. It wasn't even just like, yeah. And the whole theme was, it was a freedom camp. Mm. And as I heard about it from Corey, I literally was writing down like all the breakouts were like freedom from pornography, freedom from addiction, freedom from this, freedom from this. And it was like everything pointed at that. And I just really strongly felt the Lord was like, you need to do this, and don't be shy about it. Mm-hmm. Like there's times where I'm like, hey pastor, you know, if you want to do this, whatever. But if the Lord's like, don't be shy about it, it's going to, you know, kick a door and to be like, hey, we need to do this. So I strongly felt it. My friend Corey agreed. Joel agreed. And then when you were down, we're like, let's do it. And I think it was a pretty cool night.
Yeah, it was cool. It was an incredible night. So what was the meaning behind the cross? How did the cross come to be?
I mean, if you're going to have a freedom center, Jesus has to be in the center of it. So yeah. There's a guy, Kyle Groom, up at our camp, and we have a sawmill up on site. And one of the things that we teach at Men on Fire is like how to use a sawmill, right? But there's always like a gospel message in it. And Kyle was like, hey, we're going to make this cross for the Freedom Center. And so within it, like these guys were building something, and then it came in, and we have the matching cross for it in our sanctuary. And then the third one is at Breakthrough Church in Yakima. It's like all three of those were made at the same time at Men on Fire, and they just like
they
pumped them out, and they were all praying over them, and it's kind of cool. So that's from the trees of Bear Paw Camp.
That's crazy. So you literally took that from a tree, and the guys just prayed over that and built that.
Yeah, and they just ran it, you know, made it a square.
Wow. That's crazy, man. So at this camp, like one of the things that we're talking about is you have another one coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
You called me and asked me to do a breakout session on trafficking. Why did you want me to do that, and why do you feel like that's important for men to understand?
So when it was one of your podcasts, it was so informative. It wasn't like, I don't know, it was so like factual and just informative that I thought I knew a lot about trafficking and stuff like that. And obviously I got kids and a lot of interns and stuff like that in my life. And so I'm always in dad mode a little bit. But when I heard you in that podcast, I'm like, I have so much to learn about this. Like I couldn't live with myself if we lost a kid to trafficking, and the whole grooming process, all those things. I was like it was so foreign to what I was expecting. And
because are you imagining like the movie Taken?
Yeah.
Somebody's getting kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what all of us think when we
get
into it.
Yeah, we'll go, you know, me and Corey, if someone ever, you know, steals one of our kids, we're going to go kick some doors in and, you know, shoot some bad guys or something. But I've actually seen, like in my own life, I've seen some people kind of get groomed and pulled away.
Yeah.
And it was like, I could see it. Like,
Yeah.
And
And once you get educated and trained in it, you can't not see it.
yes. And it was spooky. And like, if one of my own kids or my interns was ever taken, I couldn't live with myself. And I personally want to sit through one of your classes. So I'm like, this would be good for me. If it'd be good for me, it'd be good for 300 of my closest buddies.
Yeah.
And so we do breakout sessions, but you're not just in a breakout session. You're actually doing a main breakout. So it's like, I think we're going to have Ethan Shearer do this whole prophetic thing, and then we're going to have you. So it's like all the dudes will be there because every man needs to hear how to help save women. So,
oh man, that'll be great. What else is going on at Man on Fire this year?
So we got a stacked lineup for all of the breakouts, and Joe Ramsey's coming back. My friend Ethan's coming up. This guy's like ridiculously prophetic. Corey's going to be preaching up there. Some of the breakouts, I think Corey's going to do one on shooting. Mike Thompson does one. All the names are like super cool. Like John Kinsey's does one called Shed to Grow, right? He's got the world record elk and shedding, and elk shed their antlers every year. So he's got this whole thing called Shed to Grow, which is like, the guys come in expecting to hear, this is how you blow an elk call, and this is how you shoot your bow and stuff. But what they hear is even a bull elk has to lose some things in life to be able to grow a bigger trophy. And it really hits the guys. And there's kind of a Jehovah sneaky in a lot of the things. I'm doing one called Before You Release Your Father's Blessing. And it's just talking about, when that young man comes to you and asks for your blessing to marry your daughter, like, what's that going to look like? So I'm going to do, the angle I'm taking is this is what I'm going to do for my kids. And it's based off some stories from some different people that I know that have kind of made that young man earn it a little bit.
Yeah.
And
so do you have to like own Carhartt jackets and chew tobacco to be able to go to this camp? It sounds
you can buy it all in our snack shack. It's all right.
It sounds like this is a real like man camp. And then you guys have this dinner. Talk about this dinner the last night that you guys do. I mean, guys, this is like, if you love bow hunting and Jesus, this is the camp you want to be at.
So in years past, we've called it the Beast Feast.
Beast Feast, yeah.
My son said that we need to rename it the Poacher's Potluck. And I was like, Connor, that is such a good name that we'll go with it. So we're rebranding as the Poacher's Potluck. And what it is Department of Fish and Wildlife, when they go in and they seize poached animals and stuff like that, they need someone to come pick it up right away. And our guy Joe just loves smoking all kinds of meat and food, and so all year long he just goes out and gets it, puts it in the freezer, and puts us aside for the Beast Feast or the Poacher's Potluck. And I'm talking, and there's going to be swan, there's going to be cougar, there's going to be moose, there's going to be deer, elk. I don't know if there's a bear yet. Probably a bear. And
dude, I feel like Joe Rogan's going to roll through here.
Come on now. Prophesy, man of God. Let's go.
Oh, my goodness. With guys, what do you think? Why do you think so many men are showing up to this? I mean, I was blown away when I showed up. It was completely packed.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is it the fact that there's just accountability? Is it the fact that it is very manly? Is it the fact that what's the feedback that you're getting? A lot of times men, we try to do men's events, and it's a lot of people don't show up. The women's events always crush the men's events, but for some reason they're showing up in flocks to go to these Men on Fire events.
I think a lot of men's events suck. For men, it's like a lot of them aren't very fun. So
fair enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are just kind of boring and stuff, and it's so over the top. Like, people are like, "Man, you must make so much money on this." Like, dude, we lose so much money on this. We got audited, and they were like, "Cut men and women on fire out."
Yeah. Well, I heard you guys just opened a daycare in Minneapolis, so you might make some money.
I wish. Dude, we get so many people saved if we had that much money. Can you imagine?
Jeez, man.
But
so you literally sit there and contemplate it and talk and go, what is this something I would want to do?
Yeah.
And you really are going, I want to make this an actual awesome event for men.
Yeah.
And then you get some really cool guys to come through and talk.
Yeah, and there's been this, like, last year it was crazy. We asked all kinds of guys. I asked my favorite 5 preachers if they would come, and they all said yes. And like within 10 minutes of me asking,
Wow.
And I literally was like, I was hoping one or two of them said yeah. So I was like, cool, I guess we're doing a lineup of 5. Let's extend it today. It's the reason Men on Fire probably is, that's probably why we have such, like practically speaking, because we own the camp. And like we can do whatever we want. Yeah. So we do whatever we want, and we have a lot of fun, and everything's bigger and better. I think Corey's doing something next year where they're going to drop cranes or drop cars from cranes or something like that. It's like Monster Garage something. I don't know what they're going to call it, but they were going to try to push it through this year, and they're doing it next year. But it's like, like what? And so,
but it was interesting to me because that was part of the fun. But most of these guys, they didn't want to leave the chapel.
Yeah,
that's what I noticed. I was like, man, they were there, and then man, I miss Joel Eklund so much.
Yeah.
And that was the last time I saw him. I was up there, and he was at your camp, and then I snuck away to go to his house, and we hung out, and we were talking about doing the podcast with him and his wife, and we were dreaming about doing the show, and him and his wife were going to come on the show and talk about the whole process they had been through, and then he went to be with the Lord, but just to be able to like have guys like him that show up and pour into these men, they're just so hungry, man.
I think that all the activities get them there.
Yeah.
But when they encounter Jesus, they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Most of the night sessions, there's always some clever activity, that looks good on the flyer.
Yeah.
That ends up getting canceled because they're like, I just want to sit here at the feet of Jesus. Except for the comedian.
Then you had the Holy Spirit Joe Dirt come in and preach last year.
Who is that? Russell Johnson?
Yeah. I've never seen somebody like, the thing is they're moving their church here to Spokane, right? Yeah. They're doing Pursuits Nights. It's, no offense, but I think he's a good fit here because he looks like a heroin addict.
So. He looks like a heroin addict.
Dude, but the boy, he can really bring it, man. Yeah. Like, I heard him preach up at Man on Fire. This is the first time I heard him speak.
Yeah, one of the pastors after him was like, I don't know what else to preach on. He preached on the whole Bible. So the next pastor preached on the virgins and the lamps. He was like, first time at a men's camp, let's go.
But he's awesome, and you guys have really connected. And actually, after this podcast, that's where you guys are going, right? He's got to pop up tonight.
Yeah, I actually helped them when they were in Snohomish, when they were just getting started, literally breaking ground on some stuff. And I walked in there once, and I saw Russell trying to run the jackhammer, but he was the one that was going up and down. The jackhammer was just staying still. Because,
guys, Russell is like, he's awesome, super anointed guy, but he's got to be like a buck. But 40
that's it. I think he's a buck. And we just kind of hit it off then. I saw he needed some help, and so I drove a tractor through his wall and helped him break it up with a skidster and a breaker bar and stuff. And then he's like, "Hey, why don't you come sit in this prophetic class?" And I was like, "What's prophetic?" I didn't know it, but I was hungry at the time. Kind of coming full circle to the beginning, and he was like, so I sat with 7 other people. We had to dust off the tables in the back of Pursuit Snohomish because there was construction dust on everything, and he would teach us for an hour, and then we'd go and work for 3 hours, and it was a great trade-off. And then had a lot of fun.
What do you think is so important about brotherhood and accountability?
I think there's a ton that's important about brotherhood, and there's been times in my life personally where we were just on our lips, even in ministry. When you're just beat up, and if you don't have brothers to lean on, Brian and Carrie Jennings, I give them a lot of credit for. You ever seen The Weekend at Bernie's?
Oh, I feel
remember
like I've
Uncle
seen
Bernie was dead, but
point,
he had to they propped him up and they made him look like he was water skiing and stuff like that. I swear Brian and Carrie Jennings propped me up for about 6 months after I went through a real hard time in ministry. And they were like, "Get back in, go." I just felt like I was just kind of going through the motions, but they're like, "Keep fighting, keep fighting." Remember one time I actually called Brian up and I said, "I'm throwing in the towel. If this is how church people act, I don't want anything to do with it." And he's like, "You're throwing in the towel?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, and he said, "Am I still in your corner?" I said, "Yeah, Brian, you'll always be in my corner." He said, "Then you don't have the towel. You shut up and keep fighting." And I did. And we got out of that season, and there was a lot of anointing and stuff that came out of that pressing season. But God's good. But yeah, without brotherhood, without brothers and stuff like that, and I know I wouldn't have made it through some stuff. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Last question. If a young Jason is sitting here listening to this, what would you say to him?
You idiot. A young Jason was sitting here. I'd probably say, like, there's obviously like the spiritual answer I would probably say, learn from your elders' mistakes. They know a lot more than you think. Remember, I thought I knew it all, and I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. But then the other side of it would be, I actually spent about 4 months in a spirit-filled church when I was 18, right before I went off in the military, and I just made fun of it all. Actually, ironically, I was just back there over Christmas, and remember I sat in the back row and just made fun of all the Holy Spirit people, and I thought it was all fake. Come full circle, 20 years later, and I'm like, it's my life mission now is to introduce people to the Holy Spirit. So, yeah, I'd probably say get plugged into a local church and actually like be engaged and be connected, because those are the people that are gonna be with you when you need it, and they're gonna introduce you to the Holy Spirit, and yeah, that's what I would say to them.
That's awesome.
Don't be an idiot.
How do people find you and find Man on Fire Camp if they want to join, and when is it?
Yeah, so bearpawcamp.com, that's our website, and Men on Fire is February 5, 6, 7, and then our Family on Fire is the evening of February 7th, coming up here in a couple weeks. So
got it.
Yeah,
right, bro. Thanks
All right.
for coming on.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, I want you to make sure to like and share and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We're grateful for every listener. Your support helps us keep sharing stories of faith, hope, and real transformation. And if this episode encouraged or challenged you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. If you'd like to support victims of sex trafficking and be part of the fight for freedom, visit helpingcaptives.org to learn more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.